Good evening, everybody. This is Casey Reginald Jr.
Your man JW Justin Waters in the building.
This is Jay Switch, Joel Switcher in the house.
Welcome to UnderDawg Sportz. Welcome to the show, everybody. We got a lot to cover today, starting with the NBA deciding that they are going to return. J-Dub, what say you?
All right, so the NBA players had an all-call yesterday with the league. The Players Association and some of the top-tier players, including Kevin Durant, surprisingly, LeBron, Chris Paul, Kyrie Irving, another surprisingly, and Steph Curry. Some of the names, there's a lot more, that they all unanimously wanted to start this NBA or continue this NBA season and not scrap it. We've seen some other smaller leagues scrap their season, but the NBA want to continue on and they want it now. I'm all for it. Let's finish this off. I know LeBron was going to be the main one because he's been the main advocate of continuing the season, mainly because the Lakers are number one in the West. So let's have it, man. We need basketball back. We need some sports back, and basketball needs to finish what they started because this was an exciting season until this happened.
Swiss, what you got?
I agree with Justin. Yeah, I agree with Justin. Just as a fan, I just want some kind of sports back. I know the UFC stuff was on last week, but, that's not – I mean, nothing wrong with that, but, we love the NBA. We saw an exciting season. It's been going good. It's been the first time in a long time that there wasn't like a clear-cut favorite because the Warriors kind of been owning the league the last few years. So, we haven't had sports. We haven't had live sports, team sports, and I feel like years we haven't had live team sports. So I'm all in for maybe coming back.
I definitely agree that the league should come back. A couple things on this. There was a separate call for a certain group of superstars in the league that was Kawhi, KD, Steph Curry, LeBron, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, and Damian Lillard, I believe was those names. I might be missing somebody, but I know someone that was missing on that call that considers himself the leader of the Houston Rockets. James Harden was inconspicuously missing from that call that was organized by CP3. Is there a rift with James Harden and Chris Paul?
No. Well, here's the thing. I read something that Harden basically told Russ to be the representative for the Rockets on the call, but I've also heard speculation that CP3 never necessarily reached out to Harden. Regardless of the matter, I would think Harden would want to continue the season also because they're both in play. I mean, the Rockets are in playoff contention as well as Oklahoma City. One thing I do want to see is if it can possibly happen, seeing the Rockets and OKC in a grudge match. It would be kind of cool to see.
So another thing I was going to point out on this is there's a debate about an asterisk or no asterisk in this season by returning. I'm all for an asterisk. And here's the reason why. COVID wiped out any fatigue. It wiped out any injuries over the last couple of months. Like any player that's been injured is pretty much healthy now. So no one's gotten any new injuries. So these guys are all going to go back to playing basketball, and they're all going to be fresh. That's not what you get when you get to an NBA Finals. What you get when you get to an NBA Finals is two teams that have been tested, that have been through the battles of an injury-plagued season, that's trying to get to that finish line and win this championship. I think we're going to miss that this year. I think this is it's going to be a sprint as opposed to a marathon, and I think a lot of basketball fans may appreciate that, but historians are going to look at it a little weird.
Actually, go ahead, Swish, and then I'll put my 2 cents in on that one.
Yeah, well, I know some people will look at this differently, but I don't know if we should necessarily add an asterisk to it. I mean, everybody's got to play. No team or player has an advantage over the other. So, I don't want to just put an asterisk over it because, everybody has a fair shot. The teams that are going to be in the playoffs are all going to have the same chances. Nobody's over anybody.
I'm different with them when it comes to the asterisk thing because let's be honest. Look what last year's series did. Okay, let's go back actually the last 2 years. Let's go back to last year with the Warriors and the Raptors. That wasn't a real series because the majority of the Warriors stars were hurt. KD went down. Klay Thompson went down. Steph wasn't really the same because he had been injured earlier. He was just coming back. Then you had 2 years ago, as far as being living in Houston, when Chris Paul went down for the Rockets, which changed the whole dynamics of that series. If you got a bunch of healthy players, this is no holds bars knockout basketball at its best. Because when have you seen playoff basketball with healthy players at that strong momentum?
Never.
You don't, because
Never.
You said, exactly, because you see the wear and tear. The last time you see guys playing a full-fledged mode, in fact, I can't think of a playoff. You may think of an all-star game. You may think of like Olympic basketball where they play on that higher level when healthy. But again, they've been sitting for 2 months. You know what I mean? This is why I was like, I don't think it needs an asterisk. This is perfect. Hell, there was a rumor I seen that they had Kevin Durant shooting around and jogging. Now, he may not be ready yet, but just to have that mindset of him possibly coming back is something. Now, they did say Kyrie should come back, but I think they're going to go ahead and thank the season as far as New Jersey is concerned because they really want Tyronn Lue as a coach. But again, I don't think they need an asterisk. I just think this is going to be knockout, drag-out basketball because now you finally got a healthy Anthony Davis, which you never had. LeBron at his full max. And then you go Kawhi. Paul George has really been bad on injuries. You got all these guys who have been healthy now at their full grain. The thing I'm worried about is a lot of these guys probably weren't working out, so they would be sloppy the first 2 series or 2 weeks or whatever the case may be.
All right, we got a basketball show on Saturday, so enough of that. That was just the biggest news so far in sports is that the NBA is looking at making a final decision in the next 2 to 4 weeks. With that, we're going to move on. I kind of want to get something out of the way. Maybe we can get a little bit heated about this again. Frank Gore and his 3,000 yards away from being the all-time rushing leader. I think you know how I feel on this, so J-Dub, tell me.
Your favorite player, Reggie?
Yeah, okay. J-Dub, tell me why he belongs as an all-time great.
I mean, he has the stats. I mean, as the old adage goes, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Like it or not, he has the stats. Now, the
numbers do
is,
lie.
How?
Easy. Because all
you
you got to do is stay
5.
healthy and stay on the roster.
Okay. Dude, and he's done that. That's the sad thing. Now, will he be considered an all-time great? Absolutely not.
Well, that was the
question.
Will
he go into a Hall of Fame? Well, no, he's not going into the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's going into the Hall of Fame based off of stats. I mean, Robert Parrish is went to the NBA Hall of Fame based off the fact that he played 21 seasons. It's one of those things. Longevity does count. If you can stay healthy, you can stay in there long enough, especially for a running back. Like it or not, whether you like Frank Gore or you don't, you have to commend him for being a running back, a position that typically lasts on average 5 to 7 years, and he's been playing going on 16. I'm gonna give him his credit. Now, is he better than any of the guys ahead of him? Is he better than Emmett? Is he better than Barry, Walter Payton? Any of those guys?
Has he ever been better than any? Has he ever been in the top 5 running backs in the sport since he's been a running back in the NFL?
Yes, he has.
For how many years, and what year was that?
Probably about 3 or 4 years, and you're looking about 06 to probably 2010. Yes, he was in the top 5.
You're talking about rushing yards, but he was that guy? He was who you game plan for? Wait. He was who you game plan for?
Regardless of this, before we get into
no, this is what Hall of Fame is supposed to be, the greatest of all time.
But here's the problem. There's a lot of Hall of Famers, NFL, NBA, MLB, you name it, that we know without a shadow of a doubt shouldn't be Hall of Fame material, but technically they are because they're voted in by stats and not voted on by. I mean, let's flip the script. Terrell Davis took a long time to get in the Hall of Fame because his body of work is short, but he's done more than Frank Gore did in 16 versus what Terrell Davis did in 7. But it took Terrell Davis almost 10 years to get into the Hall of Fame.
And we actually, and teams game plan for him.
Right, exactly my point. I'm not saying Frank Gore should be hands-off first ballot Hall of Fame. Absolutely not.
Well, that's what it's going to be, though. That's what's going to happen.
I doubt it.
Yeah, he'll be.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. We can sit here and say that, and I'm with you that he's going to go. I just, like, his numbers say he's one of the greatest of all time, but he had 4 seasons in a row with 1,000 yards. One of those seasons, he was probably third place rusher in football that year with 1,695 as a career high in 2006. Yep. So he's got several years 1,000-yard rushing. It's just it was never that he was the guy. He was never the top running back. He was never somebody that you were afraid to see coming. So
very true.
That's why I mean, yes, he's gonna go. Do I think he should be there? I mean, I guess if showing up to work every day and doing your job well enough to keep it, yeah, I guess he should go. I guess.
So what about you?
Yeah. I really just his numbers will get him in, and I just can't. He doesn't really have too many accolades except the second team All Pro in 2006, and he was on the All Decade team for the 2010s. But yeah, Justin mentioned, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. He may not have been somebody to game plan around, but his numbers single-handedly and the longevity in his production is going to get him in. Not necessarily first ballot, but maybe second or third.
Can I ask this one bigger question? How does he keep getting fined? Like, I know he's in the Jets, and he's obviously not going to start over Le'Veon. But the Jets know they ain't got a line, so how is he starting there? I didn't understand how he was second string in Buffalo. And it just seems like Frank Gore is like, I mean, he's Father Time on crack when it comes to a running back, because I don't know how this dude just keeps continually getting jobs. They already said his goal is to actually, his son is a sophomore at Southern Mississippi right now. His goal is to now, keep in mind his son is not like exactly tearing up the league in college either.
Well, but
his goal is to play one day against his son, which would be very commendable. I mean, it's the LeBron thing. LeBron wants to play
cool,
against Barney, but I don't see it happening unless these teams just like giving away money.
I mean, he's not demanding a huge payday when he signs. Like, and he's good in the locker room. Now, I think the part where you start wondering how he's still playing is if he isn't your starter and he's a running back, he should be playing special teams if he isn't your starter. And he's not playing nobody's special teams. So
I used to roll for that, man, bro.
I think that's what you lose by keeping him on the roster. But as far as money, he isn't asking for hell. He probably isn't even asking for $5 million a year. Probably like, I'll take $3 million to keep carrying the ball.
Oh yeah, the league minimum's 2.5, so he's probably at least getting that. So.
That's probably what he got. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Enough Frank Gore. I'm not gonna let that. We're not gonna go there today. He's a Hall of Famer. I just don't think so. I guess longevity does count for something. There's controversy in Green Bay again with the drafting of Jordan Love. Hall of Famer Brett Favre has spoken out on behalf of Aaron Rodgers, and it's getting a little Favrean up there again.
Here's the thing. Brett Favre has the right to say this. He is Hall of Fame, but flip it. He has the right to tell Aaron Rodgers that because he did exactly what he said. He didn't try to make Aaron Rodgers feel comfortable in Green Bay. He stayed in Green Bay as long as they basically had to kick him out of Green Bay. And then he still came back 2 seasons later to be playing against Green Bay. He did that 1 year with the Jets, which was pointless. Back at Green Bay. So he has a point. He does not have to be. Aaron does not have to be the end all be all to the youngster, to Jordan Love. So, I hate to tell you, but it is truthful.
Swish.
So what you? Well, they're going to be teammates. So, Aaron doesn't necessarily mentor the kid, but they're going to be and all that kind of good stuff. So, there might be a little mentoring there by default from Rodgers to Jordan Love, but no, he's not obligated to actually just mentor him about everything. But they will be in the same room together as far as like quarterback meetings and stuff like that. So that's pretty much all there is to that, in my opinion.
So I have a different train of thought on this one. If you take him under your wing, isn't he part of your legacy? His successes once you're gone. Like,
no,
why not? Like,
So,
to this day. Hold on. To this day, Patrick Mahomes is giving Alex Smith credit for taking him under his wing when he got to Kansas City, tutoring him. He said point blank, I would not be the quarterback I am without spending that time under Alex. So Patrick Mahomes is now part of Alex Smith's legacy, and every Chiefs fan will tell you that same thing. So why is it not the same thing for Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love? Now, I understand what Brett Favre did to Aaron Rodgers, and, I didn't like it then either. I get it as a competitor. Like, he's there for your job, but, Father Time is not on your side either. So you have to understand, like, this is a land of staying competitive, and if we got a guy that we feel like can replace you in a few years, the least you can try to do is mentor him a little. I'm not saying teach him to take your job. That's his part. That's what he has to do, but don't shun the kid.
So I like what you said about the whole Alex Smith thing. Cool. All right. He mentored eventual Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl champion and MVP, I should say. Here's your big thing. In the Hall of Fame, where does that say that? What significance of that? Basically, is a younger guy took your spot, you're gone, he won with your team, and now you're irrelevant. That's how I look at it. I don't see mostly. If you really look at it, name me an NFL player that still mentally feels that they're in their prime that is going to mentor the younger one. Let's be honest.
But
that's
brother,
the
36
why
is not in your prime. I'm sorry, it's not.
Okay, but you didn't hear the key word I said. Meant in their mind. Let me give you an example. Phillip Rivers. Why the hell you think they got rid of Phillip Rivers in Los Angeles? Because they know Phillip Rivers is not willing to give the next guy up his position. You go ahead and get a bunch of B-tier, C-tier quarterbacks behind him. He knows he's going to beat them out just by name recognition alone. But he's not willing to go ahead and do that for the next guy up. Unless you're on your last leg, the next guy up.
So you're cutting off, and I'm not sure why. So as far as I understand that Alex Smith is not a Hall of Famer, but Alex Smith was the second highest rated quarterback in the NFL the season that the Chiefs traded him. So he was not a slouch. He actually was the second most efficient quarterback in the game during this time. And because he was the second most efficient quarterback in the game, that means he was on his peak. He was performing. He was doing everything he was supposed to do to hold on to that job. The part that probably frustrated Alex Smith most was that he had all those numbers and they still traded him. So, yeah. So, okay. All right. So yeah, the whole Alex Smith isn't a Hall of Famer argument. Like, yeah, duh. But Alex Smith is, or not is, well, he definitely was a top passer in the NFL. And I don't know how many teams would have been willing to take the same chance that the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes by trading away the second-ranked quarterback in the National Football League the year that they did. And I don't like the argument that because he's not a Hall of Famer, he was willing to give up his job, because he did not give up his job. Patrick Mahomes' talent in the Chiefs organization took it a lot like the Green Bay Packers did to Brett Favre and what they're going to do to Aaron Rodgers. The bottom line is talent is what wins football games in the National Football League. And if you got talent, you got it.
Factor and everything, cool beans, but I still don't understand. No quarterback. Let's just go back in the last 10, 15 years. No quarterback gets credit for mentoring the next guy up. Brett Favre is not going to get credit for mentoring Aaron Rodgers. Kurt Warner didn't get any credit for mentoring Eli. I mean, even Tommy Maddox didn't get no credit for mentoring Ben. It just ain't happening. It's a good idea in theory if you're a positive person, and in Kansas City just seems like the place of Shangri-La where that's positive feed for Alex Smith. But still, at the end of the day, they got rid of Alex Smith for Patrick Mahomes.
Just like the Packers did to Favre, and what they're going to do eventually to Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly. But
it's up to you how you leave that legacy. Is what I'm saying. Is all the entire argument is it's about how you decide to leave that legacy. And
so, but is your legacy based off of stats and wins, or mentoring the next guy to take your spot?
But when it's time, it's time. And Aaron Rodgers has missed a lot of games in the last few years. You think the Packers are going to keep hoping that he can stay healthy, keep hoping that he gets healthier as he's older? That's not how these sports work. And if he's a generous guy who was in this same position 15 years ago when he was taking over for Brett Favre, you understood how bad it was to not have a quarterback really want you in that room. So why not do something different? Now, I'm not saying give the kid your job. I'm saying if he's going to have your job anyway and you love this franchise, it's all right to help him succeed once you're gone.
I just don't see that, bro. What about you, Joe?
Well, I just don't think I've heard people say, and I kind of agree. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to finish his career with the Green Bay Packers. He's either going to be traded or they're going to release him at some point. Because obviously, I still feel he was kind of blindsided by the Packers moving to get this kid, and I don't know if Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers are kind of seeing eye to eye. That's pretty much my thoughts on that.
You also realize Matt LaFleur is playing smart. He knows that Aaron Rodgers ain't getting along with everybody. That's what Mike McCarthy. That was the death of Mike McCarthy. I think with him, he's gonna try to get his before Aaron gets his. I just don't see it. The one factor we forget is they interviewed Aaron Rodgers the day of the draft. And Aaron said nothing about it. All they kept talking about was wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. They didn't get a wide receiver, but they got his heir apparent. I think Aaron's just going to go show out. Just being honest. It's an ego thing. In theory, Reg, you're right. But in reality, with egotistical coaches and egotistical players at best, I don't see it. Jordan Love might as well go ahead and get as much information he can from Matt LaFleur, coaching staff, and his peers in the NFL that are not Aaron Rodgers. Because Aaron Rodgers is there to do one thing: win, and don't give a damn how.
We'll move on from Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre and Jordan Love saga. That is to be determined if and when we have a football season, how this relationship is going to fester. Last of our headlines today is the NFL schedule came out last week, and there's a lot of primetime matchups there's a lot of matchups in football this year that I want to see in particular. But tell me, Joe, what's your least favorite matchup for the Texans this year?
My least favorite matchup? I was going to say all the games, but if I had to pick one. Here's my thing. I'm really surprised that the Texans were picked to play the Chiefs the first game of the season. I thought the NFL would try to pick a more marquee team. So it's bad enough. The Texans got their brains beaten in this past January by Chiefs, and now they got to go in and watch them put their banner up. Because the Chiefs beat the Texans at their expense. So that first game, it's gonna be it's gonna be cool to see the football back, but that's gonna be kind of a tough game to watch because it might kind of set the tone with how the season's gonna go after one game. And I might be overreacting, but that's just how I feel.
Man, you have Deshaun freaking Watson. How can you be this so down? That's why I don't see why this is a problem for this matchup. Is the fact that you still have two good young quarterbacks, number 10 and 11 in the draft in 2017, with yet another matchup, with yet another opportunity to determine which one of those two guys are the best out of that class. So, yes, I can see why the NFL made that game one, and I'm very surprised by you not highlighting at least that part of this matchup. J-Dub, what you say on this?
I think, Rez, you tripping. Because I'm with Joel. After the ass beating they just did with D-Hop and a bunch of other players, I just don't see it. If you're going prime time and it's the big matchup, the one thing the NFL is notorious for, and a lot of leagues are notorious for, is what was the marquee move of the year, of the offseason? What was the big draft pick of the season? Now, the draft pick-wise, no, because no one gives a damn about – the Chiefs are going to go ahead and annihilate Cincinnati if that was the number one, so that's not even a good matchup. But why wouldn't you have – the Chiefs play the Buccaneers this season. The Chiefs play, which should have been the Super Bowl 2 years ago if it wasn't for that bad call, the Chiefs play the Saints. So I get it. You want to go with the two young quarterbacks, the two, basically the next generation of the NFL in a sense. I get it. But the Texans are not a good team right now.
They beat the Chiefs once last year in Arrowhead.
Again, the Texans are not a good team right now. They are, they're okay. That's a different Texans team that beat the Chiefs versus the same Texans team that is there now. It's a lot of pieces that have changed around. I would have said go with the bigger name. Truth be told, why not have the Buccaneers and the Chiefs when you have the two last Super Bowl champions playing against each other? You have basically the future of the league, if you want to still call it the future, with Patrick Mahomes versus basically the all-time. It just seemed like a better matchup. I don't knock it, but
I think the reason why that wasn't a matchup is because that game being played in Tampa. They do that. The teams play the conference every 4 years. So that's the reason why. Yeah, I think they were number one for that one too. So if had one of those teams been playing in Kansas City, I think one of those teams probably would have been either the Bucs or the Saints.
Exactly. Who you want us to host? The Raiders, the Panthers, the Patriots? Those are the other teams that we host outside of our division. So the
wasn't
best
a lot of options.
Yeah, the best game on the Chiefs' schedule this year, the best rematch at home on opening day was the Texans versus Chiefs.
I'll give you that, but you selling it like this is going to be this is the premier matchup of the NFL decade, and it's not.
Well, Deshaun Watson thinks it's going to be.
Deshaun is a company guy. He's on everything.
No, Deshaun feels like he's
the
the second best young quarterback, and hell, he thinks he's better. That's why he wants more money.
I don't knock him for feeling that way. I'm just saying he's doing the company guy move. He is now the face of the franchise. It's not D-Hop. JJ's too old. He is the face of the Texans franchise, but he stays goes, period.
All right, who's your least favorite matchup for the Steelers?
Our primetime matchup is kind of funny. I mean, we start Monday Night Football off against the Giants, but I'm like, okay, all right, we got Saquon coming into town with a horrible offensive line, but hey, I'll take that as a cake game. The matchup I'm actually interested for, we got a Monday night game against the Bengals, and we'll really get to see how good Joe Burrow is against our defense. I'm kind of ecstatic for that one. But out of those two, the Giants or the Bengals, I mean, we don't exactly hit the ground running, but I mean, I'll take it because, I mean, hell, if we get 2 primetime wins, I'm all for it. Here's what it is. Because we have no Thursday night games this season.
Well, Thanksgiving, right?
Well, and I'm not going there with Thanksgiving. Notice I didn't say anything. We got the Ravens on Thanksgiving. I said nothing. I'm going to be very quiet because that Ravens squad they bulked up a little bit for us too. I'm being very quiet. I'm going to like that game, but the last time the Steelers and Ravens played on Thanksgiving, our coach almost got suspended for tripping Jacoby Jones on a bad ass for attempting playing around to trip Jacoby Jones on a bad play. So, Thanksgiving and with the Ravens and Steelers has not been in my favor. There's been 2 games since this Thursday night thing has been going on Thanksgiving, and we haven't won one of them yet. So I'm being real quiet on that.
All righty, so you're being real quiet against the Ravens. It sounds like you're afraid.
I ain't say afraid. That's what I'm being quiet. I don't like the matchup.
Okay.
So, I don't Thanksgiving.
So I don't really have a problem with any of the games the Chiefs play. I wish we played the Saints and the Bucks at home, but I like the way Patrick Mahomes travels. I think the game I want to see most is December 20th against the New Orleans Saints. Now, I hope that game has a lot of meaning. It's one of the last 3 games of the season. But if everybody's healthy, to see those 2 teams on that turf, the speed on that field is going to be something that's just simply electric. Like the turf is going to be on fire. That's how fast those players are in that game on that turf. I can't wait to see Drew Brees versus the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes against the New Orleans Saints in a shootout in the Superdome.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, Don, because this should have been the Super Bowl of 2018, and it didn't happen. So let's go ahead and throw that back in and rewind. See if that can at least get a preview, if that's going to be the case.
It might get flexed to a Sunday night game too, because that game is afternoon game, so it could be possibly.
I think I'm really surprised if it wouldn't be flexed, unless one of the 2 quarterbacks go down for the whole damn season. I would be shocked if it still stays a mid-tier game instead of prime time.
All right, folks, this is what we all came here for. We came for some versus matchups. Who wants to start it off today?
Joel, go ahead for it, brother. You got your versus first.
So we're going Big Ben Roethlisberger versus Troy Aikman. Joel, who you got?
Yeah, I thought I could pair these 2 guys because they're multiple Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, and I don't think they've necessarily been the top quarterback in the league when they played. I'm probably going to go Big Ben on this one. I think Troyman has some weapons on his team, so I really think that kind of benefited him. I probably go Big Ben on this one.
Well, I think I know who Justin has.
Yeah, we don't even do it with me.
I think.
No
Sorry, you got KC.
I think I know who Justin has, so I really don't like that y'all put me in this position.
The bad guy.
Okay, Troy Aikman won some Super Bowls, and he was a good quarterback, especially in his era. Yes, he had a lot of talent around him, but he used that talent to win some Super Bowls, 3 times actually, go to 6 Pro Bowls, and go to the Hall of Fame on the first ballot on top of that. I'm pretty much – I think I'm good. I don't need to say anymore.
That was pretty convincing, though.
No, you know damn well you know who I'm going for. And Swish, I do got to say this. Yes, Big Ben has never been – he's always been in the shadow of Tom and Drew, and even before that, Peyton. But with Ben, he put up stats. Remember, he did lead the league in passing. Oh, this is actually for Casey. He did lead the league in passing on 3 different occasions, yards-wise. Aikman never did. In fact, his career average is not even near 300 for a quarterback. Again, I'm sorry, with that offensive line, like we always will say, with that offensive line and those that wide receiver and Michael Irvin and Jay Novacek and Moose, bro, they could have won with Jason Garrett. I'm just keeping it 110%. But I'm going with the Steelers, so the homer aspect and the fact Troy Aikman. I'm not a Troy Aikman fan, and neither should you. After you talk about
no, neither am I. Don't get it twisted. Y'all just put me on this side. I'm not a fan of any damn Cowboy ever. But y'all put me on this side. I do like
Michael Irvin. That's my guy.
I don't. Mr. Push Off himself. Hell no. Next. All right. So apparently Ben Roethlisberger over Troy Aikman. J-Dub. Let's go defense. Cameron Jordan versus Dwight Freeney. Who you got?
Okay, this was kind of hard for me because Cameron Jordan is a talent down there and a really good talent. But I'm sorry, I got to go with Dwight Freeney. Dwight Freeney revolutionized the spin move on defenses for years in Indianapolis. And maybe he might have been at one point the only defensive player in Indianapolis, and it got him far. Cam is not a one-trick pony, I will say that, but he's not Dwight Freeney. Dwight Freeney, multiple Pro Bowl, Super Bowl champion, longevity. He is in the top 10 all-time in sacks. Cam Jordan could get there. I mean, Cam Jordan's only been in the league for 10 years now, so he still has some time. But I got to go with Dwight Freeney all day. His Indy days were spectacular at best. The only problem that would happen with Freeney was, of course, happens with any defensive player, i.e., you can even say J.J. Watt, injuries and time. So Freeney for me.
I'm not going to keep going last, but go ahead, Joe.
Oh, you can go second.
No, go ahead, bro. Go.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm gonna pick Freeney. When the Colts, they had Peyton Manning. It seemed like the knock on the Colts all those years before they won is that their defense wasn't good, but then Dwight Freeney always kind of stuck out because of the play was just talking about the spin move and just how a dominant D lineman he was, which it's just really impressive. But yeah, I have to go Freeney on this one. No knock on Cam Jordan. I have to go Freeney on this one.
So, numbers wise, yes, you got to go Dwight Freeney, but Cam Jordan has been the anchor of this Saints defense for basically every year he's been in the league, and he's been the focus. You say Freeney didn't have much help, but he had Mathis on the other side, so he had some help. Cam Jordan has been the focal point for the Saints his entire career, and outside of his rookie year where he only had 1 sack, he's got at least 7.5 every other season he's been in the National Football League. So, yes, his rookie year wasn't great, but after that he's come on. He's been Mr. Consistency. He's been Mr. Saint. Now, I give you your All-Pros and I give you your Pro Bowls, but your guy was in the league 7 years longer. Give my guy the same chance. I think my guy eclipses 125.5 sacks, by the way, and gets a couple more All-Pros. So I'm going Cam Jordan.
Well, 2-1, but I mean, hey, I'm not knocking Cam. That's why I made the matchup. It was still a great matchup, though. Good to see you up with yours.
All right, I'm going to go wide receiver, Odell Beckham Jr. versus Chris Carter. First, I'm going to preface this by saying I would have thought a better, and this is my matchup, and I'm a little bit upset that we already did DeAndre Hopkins, right?
Yeah, we did. Remember,
yeah, but I would love to compare him to Chris Carter, but I won't. Chris Carter was magic on the football field. Now, he got drafted lower because he smoked pot. He got in trouble late because he smoked more pot. But Chris Carter is in the Hall of Fame for a reason. Now, he's not Randy Moss, but he was that perfect receiver, that perfect route runner, that perfect body control guy. He can beat you deep. He can beat you short. He just flat out beats you every single time. So, of course, I'm going Chris Carter. I think he's one of the greatest wide receivers to ever play the game. So he definitely deserves his Hall of Fame nod.
Go ahead, Rex. Go ahead, Joel.
Yeah, Chris Carter is one of the best. I take him. And my personal opinion on Beckham, and y'all can call me out if I'm wrong, but I really just I feel like he's just a little overrated. He had that one-handed catch against the Cowboys, and all of a sudden he just kind of blew up. I mean, I'm sure the numbers are there, but I feel like that one play kind of just elevated him, and the fact that he played with the Giants, for those years before he got to Cleveland, it kind of boosted him a little bit. So I have to go Chris Carter on this one.
All right, so I guess I'm gonna be the changer on this one. I'm going with Odell Beckham Jr. Now, to your point, Joel, yes, the catch did define. He had that moment, quote unquote. We're always looking for that quote unquote moment, a defining play or catch in a person's career that we can always talk about. We do say, like going back to Frank Gore. Frank Gore's never had that moment or that play to make us say, "Wow, this is why he is the whatever." But Odell Beckham. But the thing is with Odell Beckham, you can't knock, is my man was getting yardage until Cleveland. Think about it. His career average mind you, he's only been in the league 6 years. His career average yards per game is at 86. My man has he actually has 6 rushing touchdowns, so they use him more than that. Chris Carter, again, one of my GOATs, but his career yardage is at 59.4. His best season in Minnesota was yards per game was 79, and that was year 2000. Now, mind you, he had Randy there, so it did take away from it from 96 to 2001 when he left.
I just want to say, to your entire argument about yards per game or all that good stuff, bro, this is a time where if you got 3,000 yards as a passer, you were elite.
Mm-hmm.
So it just simply wasn't the same opportunity.
But you're talking about a Minnesota team for at least 5 of those years played offense like they play in the NFL right now.
3,000-yard passer is not like now. That's like, hell, Mitch Trubisky can pass for 3,000 yards.
Yeah, that's really easy, but I'm talking about how they run the spread.
I'm just saying.
Minnesota's playing that spread with it, but hold on to the point. The only knock that the only knock that Odell has is he does not catch touchdowns. And Chris Carter's nickname was catch touchdowns. That's the only knock against him. Now, his first 3 years in the league, 12, 13, and 10, Odell Beckham. I won't really count Chris Carter's alcoholic years in Philly because he was self-destructing until they got rid of him, and then he had to go to Minnesota. So I'm really going to count his Florida years where he rehabbed and got himself together. But 17, 10, 13, 12, 13, and 9, I mean, you can't say anything against it.
He got an 11 year in there, too.
Yeah, he got 11 in Philly. But like I said, I ain't going to count the Philly years because my man was on some otherness. I mean, he was getting kicked out of games. Remember, his first 2 years, although he played 16 games, he got kicked off the team twice.
Bro, we had a whole drag out argument on this show about touchdowns over yards about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and you took touchdowns. That's all I got to say about that.
I got to go with something on the argument, brother. Now, if we want to go ahead, remember, I'm supposed to be the tiebreaker, and y'all both get Chris Carter. Now, let's just be honest. Chris Carter is probably my third favorite receiver in NFL history outside of Randy, and I'm a homer. I'm going to say Hines Ward for what he did. Chris Carter is that guy. But I got to go ahead and defend Odell Beckham, so I got to put the stats up with Odell Beckham. The problem with Odell Beckham and Chris Carter is they are very similar young in their career. Odell is a hothead, and it took him getting traded to Cleveland, and he still kind of don't get it yet, for him to understand that, you're no bigger than the game. Hopefully he can change his career around. I don't see it happening in Cleveland. That's why I'm still surprised he's still there. I really thought he was going to get traded by now. But, we'll see how it goes with that one. But, okay. Chris Carter wins. All righty then.
You didn't fight very hard. Just kidding.
Not with my third favorite receiver.
All right. So, do you want to save the bust for later?
For
the bust?
No, it's Joe's up.
You want to go in the bust, or you want to go to the list?
Let's go to the bust. Yeah, let's go to the bust.
So, Swish, you had the bigger bust. Your matchup is the bigger draft bust was Solomon Thomas for the San Francisco 49ers versus Steve AIKMAN for the Indianapolis Colts.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the bigger bust?
Right now, you got to go AIKMAN right now. I mean, and it's kind of unfair. I looking at his career stuff, and he was playing with injuries. He had a great college career at Washington, but he just could never stay healthy. And he was number one overall pick in '92, so he never really lived up to the hype at all due to injuries. He's had a good post football career, but if you're the number one pick, you got to do something. Otherwise, people are going to look at you as a bust. So. Solomon Thomas, he was the third pick in the draft I think he was 17 with the Watson and Mahomes draft. And he's just kind of backup right now, but he has time to turn around. But I think the Niners didn't pick up his option. So we'll see what happens to him this year though. But and AIKMAN is probably the biggest bust out of the two so far.
So I'm gonna disagree. Because I get what you're saying, but injuries derailed his career. Solomon Thomas just sucks. So if you're asking me who the bigger bust is, I'm going with Solomon Thomas. He just sucks. And that's just really what it is. So the bigger bust of the two, Solomon Thomas. J-Dub, who you got?
So here's the thing. I really wanted to go with you, Joe, because they hyped AIKMAN up. They hyped, and this is for always the great white hype on the Sports Illustrated without no shirt on and all that stuff. Yeah, right. Anyway, but I got to go with Solomon Thomas too. The reason, in which case he didn't say, is the two guys that got drafted before him and after him, and Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner. Those two guys took his spot and never gave it back. They said, no. You play sideline. I mean, for Solomon Thomas, he's going to get cut next year. I'm sorry if he doesn't do anything.
Because he just sucks.
And then here's the bigger issue. They drafted another guy that's pretty much going to take Solomon's spot. Javon Kinlaw can play end and tackle. He won't be that. That means you're basically saying we messed up on the third pick in the 2017 draft, and yeah, we're pretty much going to move on to it. I mean, 3 sacks and 6 sacks in one career. That was 6 sacks.
We lost you there a bit.
But and he was another one of these white guys, excuse my language, sorry, that went to the Pro Bowl and acted a fool, and everybody thinks the Pro Bowl counts. Not the Pro Bowl, excuse me, the Combine acts as the rite of passage for being an NFL Hall of Famer. It does. I'm going with Solomon Thomas on this one. He was the bigger bust. He could change his career now. Don't get me wrong. He has time. He's only in his 4th year. But as of right now, he's the bust.
I'm going to change up the rotation because I think we're going to spend a little more time on yours. Who's the bigger bust, Ryan Leaf or Mitchell Trubisky? This one is probably very, 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 very hard. But Ryan Leaf's the bigger bust, okay? It's really like he was only in the National Football League for 3 years. Then he started drugs or alcohol or whatever the hell. Like, this dude is broken in houses and everything else. Trubisky may never be a starter in the National Football League, but he will be a backup somewhere. So he'll last longer than 3 years. Both of these guys are bust as to they were both drafted number 2 overall. Mitch Trubisky was drafted in a draft that had Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson in it, and he went before those guys. Ryan Leaf, it was fun playing against him for those 3 years because if I'm not mistaken, Ryan Leaf started 16 games, and his total – no, he started 16 games. Never. He started 9 in 3 games. His record is 4-17. Dude sucks. And like I said, Trubisky will be in the league as a backup at least for 10 more years. Ryan Leaf drunk himself to death. Not death, but you know what I mean. Drunk himself out of the league. And that's just been it.
If you want me to go on this one, I'm going Mitchell Trubisky for one thing. Everybody in the NFL knew that Ryan Leaf was going to be a bust but San Diego. Everybody knew that Ryan Leaf was an alcoholic in college. Everybody knew that he was a problem child when he got drafted. Everybody. And the reason the San Diego Chargers drafted him is because they're a bunch of damn idiots. Because the fact of the matter is people seen that one coming. That's why when they sit there and say that Ryan Leaf was a bigger bust, most of the NFL knew he was going to be a bust. It was like, okay, San Diego, y'all smart. That means y'all going to start over eventually, which they did. 4 years later, they got Drew Brees, and then 2 years later after that, 3 years after that, they got Phillip Rivers. San Diego just ain't a smart team. They just draft bad. Trubisky is the model of consistency of today's quarterback. He's a one-hit wonder, but they put talent around. Remember, they traded up to get Mitchell Trubisky. No one traded up. San Diego didn't trade up to get Ryan Leaf. They traded a lot of picks. I forgot what team had them originally pegged there. Traded to get
the Niners.
Yeah, in fact, you're right. The Niners. The Niners were smart to trade down. The Bears went up to get Mitchell Trubisky and didn't do their homework. Because I keep saying, Mitchell Trubisky only played 1 year in North Carolina. He didn't start against the kid's name was Williams, the black kid that was the quarterback the originating 2 years. Mitchell Trubisky came in hot, ran the ACC, couldn't beat Florida State, couldn't beat Miami. But for some reason, some NFL gurus thought he was going to be the next thing smoking. Mitchell Trubisky is the hugest bust because when you have to trade up and give up a lot of picks to get this kid and he doesn't pan out, you basically wasted your draft. That's why I'm going with Mitchell Trubisky.
Swish.
Oh, so the tiebreaker, huh?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh man, I kind of want to. I'm make the same argument with I made the argument with Solomon Thomas that he may have time. I'm gonna make the same argument with Trubisky as well. He hasn't really played up to his draft pick status so far, but we'll see what he does this year. So that's why I probably go Ryan Leaf. Ryan Leaf, maybe arguably might be the biggest bust of all time. I mean, Jamarcus Russell may have something to say about that, but I'd have to go Ryan Leaf on this one because Trubisky, I think still has an opportunity to prove himself, even though it's now an open competition between him and Nick Foles this upcoming year. He still has a chance to kind of to turn things around. But that's asking a lot at this point. But I'm going Ryan Leaf on this one.
Chicago should cut both of them and get Cam. I'm being honest.
Well, that's true.
Okay.
All righty. So this particular matchup, and this is our last bust draft pick of the evening, it will be J-Dub's matchup, Jadeveon Clowney and Courtney Brown.
So I have to sit back and really think about Courtney Brown, number 1 pick in 2000, went to the Cleveland Browns and did absolutely nothing out of Penn State. It hits me home because, I'm from Pennsylvania. I knew the guys that went to Penn State. Hell, I've hung out with LeVar Arrington, who was drafted third that draft, Courtney Brown's teammate. And then there's Clowney. The reason why I'm going to say Clowney was the bigger bust is because he came in with more hype. That draft in particular, where Courtney Brown was drafted, where it was Chris Samuels, LeVar Arrington, an unknown guy from New Mexico by the name of Brian Urlacher, Peter Ward, wide receiver from Florida State. All those guys were pegged that could have been the number 1 pick to Cleveland. Cleveland went defense because the year before they picked Ken Couch on offense. Courtney Brown, because of injuries, did not pan out. He got hurt. He consistently got hurt. He's never played a full NFL season outside of his rookie one. Sacks-wise, he's never had over 10 sacks. But he could have not. There was a possibility he could have actually went 5th versus 1st. Jadeveon Clowney, because of one play in Michigan where he knocked the kid's helmet off and some height, has always was pegged number 1 in that draft. Over Aaron Donald, over Khalil Mack, over anybody that you want to name in that draft class, he was normal number 1. Jadeveon Clowney has only had, to this day, 2 double sack seasons. Jadeveon Clowney is constantly hurt, but still has not lived up to his hype of being the next one. Texans fans were supposed to have basically the greatest defense supposedly all time. This was supposed to be the Reggie White, Seth Joyner defense, the 2 ends of all time. But it never happened. Never. And now he's in Seattle, where he said he was going to change the market of being the defensive player, where he's supposed to be the highest defensive player, and he's still on the market. Seattle ain't even picking him. They want on somebody else. Based because of all the hype with social media, ESPN and everything, they pegged this kid way too high, and he's not lived up to the example. So I'm going Jadeveon Clowney on this.
Go ahead, Swish. I should have respected.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Courtney Brown on this one. You're right, Justin. There was a lot of hype around Jadeveon Clowney, and like you mentioned, same thing with him. One big hit in the bowl game against Michigan. It seemed like it just kind of catapulted him, and he just received all the hype. But regardless, he's had a pretty serviceable career, and he's actually made an All-Pro, surprisingly, and been to the Pro Bowl. Courtney Brown didn't do any of those things. He came in, like I said, he's been injured, and he never really was able to live up to the hype when he got to the NFL. So I had to go with Courtney Brown. And the Browns, they've had a lot of bust draft picks in their franchise history, and he's probably arguably on the top of that list.
So
I do want to say one side note real quick. Courtney Brown might have not been the number 1 pick if it wasn't for the fact LeVar Arrington, who was from Pittsburgh, refused to play for Cleveland. He had came out and said it. He was not going to play for the Cleveland Browns. But my bad. Go ahead, Rich.
So, Jadeveon Clowney is a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's not been an All-Pro. I obviously the bigger bust out of this is Courtney Brown. I don't like considering Jadeveon Clowney a bust yet because he's played hurt a lot, but when he's been healthy, he's been productive. He's got 2 campaigns with 9 sacks, 9+ sacks. Your guy had 1 year of 6, I think. Yeah, 1 year of 6. Now, I will give you the argument that Clowney was overhyped, but this is about being a bigger bust. Clowney, once he, gets out of his feelings, he's going to sign another contract. He's going to have the opportunity to put up the numbers that he was drafted to put up. But as I always say, you don't get healthier as you get older, but I still think he's serviceable. I still think he's a 7-sack guy. He can get 10 to 15 sacks depending on who's opposite of him if he's healthy. I believe he has 10-sack ability in him. The 15 may be pushing it very, very far, but I believe he's got 10 sacks in him. And by the time his career is over, he would have played way more seasons, I think, than Courtney Brown did, and he's going to be a lot more productive than Courtney Brown ever thought of being. So I don't think this is relatively close. I think Courtney Brown is obviously the bigger bust. Let's go tight end. Rob Gronkowski against Shannon Sharp. These are 2 guys I absolutely loathe, period. But if I want a guy that I know is going to make a play, I'm going with Shannon Sharp, the Hall of Famer, the horse, the guy that destroyed the Kansas City Chiefs year after year after year after year. Even though we had a Tony Gonzalez, Shannon Sharp always seemed to beat our defense, always seemed to score touchdowns against the Chiefs. And when you looked up, it wasn't just against the Chiefs, it's against the rest of the National Football League. When the guy retired, he had all the tight end records until Tony broke them a couple years later. I like Gronk, but I'm going Shannon Sharp.
Joe, I'll be the tiebreaker.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go Gronk here. No, Shannon Sharp has even said that Gronk is probably the most dominant tight end in NFL history. So that came out of the man's mouth himself. But every time you're in the end zone and you have to cover Gronk, it's literally a mismatch. Like if you had to defend Gronk in the end zone, it's no chance. I mean, the guy was just a freak of nature, body-wise. Like nobody could cover this guy, and that's why he was able to do what he could do. And then just like Shannon Sharp, in championship games, he made championship plays too. So I had to go Gronk. I think he's the most dominant tight end probably we've seen in quite some time.
You guys got me being the bad guy in this one because I got to be the tiebreaker. And Shannon Sharp is one of my favorite NFL players, let alone tight ends of all time. But I'm going Gronk. Reason, nobody can stop Gronk. When that momentum comes, Gronk is a defensive lineman that can run and catch. When Gronk hits that ball, there's not a lot of people that can stop him. Shannon Sharp, to me, as much as he is, to me, also considered one of my GOATs, one of my favorites. I put Gronk on a slight edge because you can stop Shannon Sharp. In today's modern NFL with guys that are fast, remember, when Shannon played, especially his Denver days, the linebackers were not catching him because Shannon Sharp is really a wide receiver, a bigger wide receiver that converted to tight end. I mean, he even said it himself. But the safeties weren't big enough. The linebackers weren't fast enough. Gronk, it doesn't even matter. If the linebacker is big and fast, Gronk is running over these dudes. I've seen enough times against the Steelers, seen enough times against his own division, the AFC East, where Gronk is dominated. I can't knock it. As much as I can't stand him when he dances and does everything, I'm going Gronk. So I got tiebreaker on that one is Gronk.
So I'm sticking with Shannon because something you missed. Football was physical when Shannon Sharp played, and cornerbacks and safeties and linebackers could hold a lot longer than they can now. They could bump a lot more than they can now. And Shannon Sharp still was that guy. So, yeah, I know I'm the loser here. I'm going with Shannon Sharp. I'm going with the Hall of Famer.
Okay, I need that. Gronk will go to the Hall of Fame one day, but also one thing Shannon Sharp said himself. Shannon Sharp hated to block.
He's humble.
He will not. He said he would not block.
He's humble.
Gronk will block.
He's humble.
Huh?
He's humble.
Ooh.
All right. Le'Veon Bell versus Edgerrin James.
So, I picked the guys that were most known for overall packages. That's not Marshall Faulk or Christian McCaffrey, which we've done already. People would think I would say Le'Veon Bell in this one, but I'm actually going Edgerrin James. Edgerrin James was the total package from the gate with being drafted by the Colts. Remember, the Colts wanted Edgerrin James, and they actually got draft picks and James because of Mike Ditka's dumbass picking Ricky Williams and trading his old draft to get Ricky Williams, although Ricky Williams wasn't that guy like Edge. Edge can catch. Edge was able to rush multiple years and multiple times for 1,200 yards plus, averaging at least 500 yards per season catching. This is with Peyton Manning, but let's just be honest. It freed up Peyton Manning to get that ball loose a lot because you couldn't put 8 in the box against Peyton Manning when you had Edgerrin James that can probably dip out to the backfield and catch you a couple of passes. Edgerrin James, to me, was the ultimate guy in the NFL. 6'1", 220, can run all day, so I'm going to Edge.
Swish.
Oh, that's tough.
Where you want me to go?
I'll go Le'Veon Bell.
Okay, all right.
I'll go Le'Veon Bell on this one. I'll go Le'Veon Bell. And I guess going back to Gronk, going back to Gronk, he missed some time to injury. How would his numbers have been had he not got hurt so much? And then sitting with Le'Veon Bell, had he not missed the whole season because of money stuff and contract stuff, how better would his numbers have been as well?
That's on him. That's not on him.
That's true.
That's on him.
Yeah, that's true. But it was a stretch there where Le'Veon Bell was the best running back in football, and he just put up some ridiculous numbers. I hate that he had to go, that he did what he did, had to sit out a whole year just because he thought he wasn't getting paid enough. But I'll just go Le'Veon Bell on this one.
And I agree 100% with you, Joel. For the reasons that you said, Edge, because he could catch. Le'Veon catches. He caught 85 balls in 2017. Like even last year with the Jets, he caught 461 yards worth of passes. Like this guy catches the ball. Like for his career, he's got 3,000 yards receiving, and Edge is at 3,300 for his career receiving. So, the receiving thing is advantage Le'Veon. Rushing yards, Edge had a few great seasons, and Le'Veon Bell probably would have had that already had he not taken the year off and played behind that line that was the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I don't think there's any question that Le'Veon Bell is a dynamic runner. Like, I watched Edgerrin James. I loved Edgerrin James, except for when he played the Chiefs and he did what everybody else did. They ran all over the Chiefs. But that's kind of life. But Le'Veon is different. Like, he's unlike any running back I had ever seen. He's a game changer to me. So this matchup, I knew you weren't going to pick Le'Veon Bell because he jettisoned you guys. So I knew you were going. No. I knew you were going Edge.
Nah.
I knew you were going Edge. All right.
I just like Edge better.
All right.
I've been an Edge fan from day one.
All right, Swish. You gave us Marshawn Lynch versus Bo Jackson. Who you got?
Yeah, I picked these two because these two guys, they had plays, memorable running back plays. They had Marshawn Lynch, the play against the Saints in the playoff game. Then you had Bo Jackson, the 91-yard run against the Seahawks way back in the day. It's really a shame. Bo Jackson didn't play that long, unfortunately. But boy, the guy was fast. The guy was an unbelievable player. I'm probably gonna go Marshawn here just because of that. I mean, and I know Bo Jackson. He's a 2-4 athlete too. He was going back and forth between football and baseball. But I'll go Marshawn Lynch here.
Go ahead, J-Dub.
What you just said is the reason why I'm going Bo Jackson. If Bo concentrated strictly on football, Bo Jackson would be in the top 10 all time rushing yards. Just because the fact of the matter is, no one could. Bo Jackson was the ultimate football player because not only was he fast, but he was big. Well, not only he could shoot, shuck and dive and move you, he could run you over. There's very few running backs, even to this day. Maybe AP, maybe a couple others. AP just came to mind. Going back, Eddie George, a couple of those guys that can do both. But Bo Jackson, again, putting too much wear and tear on his body, and his career ended up short, did just that. I don't knock Beast Mode. But Beast Mode had some seasons where it was like, he's good. If Beast Mode came out the gate killing the league, he would have never been traded to Seattle from Buffalo. Remember, he didn't leave Seattle. He got traded mid-season. I got to go with Bo just because if Bo's body of work was concentrated on one thing, he would probably been the most dominant. We would have probably been talking about Bo in the top 5 versus Gore or Sweetness or we've been saying either Bo or Barry. Put it to you like that.
So I have to go Marshawn Lynch for the same reason that Frank Gore's going to the Hall of Fame. Longevity. Now, who's a better football player? Bo Jackson. But who's a better teammate, available, consistent, is Marshawn Lynch. If I need a football player to be healthy and get me a yard, I don't know that there's ever been anyone that I would trust more, maybe Marcus Allen, to get me a yard than Marshawn Lynch. So I'm going Marshawn Lynch. I love Bo Jackson because he's a former Kansas City Royal. But as far as football, he was a Raider, so Marshawn Lynch.
There's your dad. That's why.
He's a Raider, so I'm going.
Tampa like he supposed to be. If Bo got drafted in Tampa and refused to go. If Bo was in Tampa Bay, Bears would have probably changed his argument about that one. But a Raider.
He's a Raider. He's a Raider. You can't play for the Royals and the Raiders. That's crazy talk. Anyway, let's go Ndamukong Suh versus Richard Seymour. I thought this was an intriguing matchup to put these two against each other. Both of these guys were very, and for Suh, I'm going to say were very disruptive players in the middle of defenses. But Richard Seymour was just different. And he had that dog in him that, like, Suh was, he's violent, he's dumb, but he didn't have that dog in him, that I need a stop dog. Like, when he does dumb stuff, his team's already lost by 15 points. That's for Ndamukong Suh. When Richard Seymour made his plays, the games were on the line. I like that kind of player that can step up in that moment. So I'm going Richard Seymour here.
Joe, you got it. I'll be the tiebreaker.
Okay. I like Ndamukong Suh. He's a really great player. It's a shame that he's made some boneheaded and dirty plays throughout his career, but I feel he's been just as done on the field as Seymour has. No knock on Seymour, but I'll take Ndamukong Suh here. I think he's in his prime. I don't think he's really in his prime anymore, but he was a beast outside of the dirty plays. Guy was just an absolute dominant defensive player out there on the football field.
Can I say draw? I can't say draw on this one.
Hell no.
All right.
Tiebreaker. We haven't had draw yet.
So
Pick
you
one.
want to go tiebreaker? You want to know who I'm going with? I'm going Richard Seymour. Not because Reg what he said. Reg, KC, Sue has the dog. I mean, we've seen that even going back to you can go back to Nebraska. He has the dog. Mm-hmm. The problem with Ndamukong Suh is, just like Joel said, Ndamukong Suh does a lot of stupid-ass penalties, which killed his legacy, if we're going to use legacy as the term, his height. It killed him between the stepping on, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers.
TJ Lang?
Right. Yeah, stepping on his leg. He stepped on Aaron Rodgers. Then he goes to Miami. He quits on Miami, so that was an issue. He quit on Miami his last 2 years there where he didn't even feel like playing. He kind of got a resurgence in L.A., but by that point, that's Aaron Donald's team, and now he's in Tampa. The problem with Sue is he plays when he wants to play, and he never did it at the right time. Now, stats-wise, him and Richard Seymour, are damn near identical in stats. They're both, Seymour's at 57. At this point of Sue's career is at 58. So they're almost identical with that. But the thing is with Richard Seymour's motor, he never stopped. He didn't do dumb plays to cost his team. Sue did. And I'm a Sue fan. I loved him in Nebraska. I still to this day think he should have won the Heisman his last year in Nebraska. But, of course, the Heisman is a offensive player's award except for Charles Woodson the 1 year. But if Sue would have did less penalties and played more, he still would probably be in Detroit. Now, there's a reason why Detroit got rid of him. There's a reason why Miami traded him. There's a reason why the Rams didn't re-sign him. There's a reason he's in Tampa Bay. Seymour, only reason why he left New England is he got paid in Oakland. That's the only reason. He got his check. So that's why he left. He got rings, and now he got a check. So for that reason, I'm going with Richard Seymour.
All righty. Richard Seymour wins the defensive battle there. Let's move on to Earl Thomas versus Ronnie Lott. Swish, who you got?
I love Earl Thomas. He's a good player, great player. He was probably the leader of the Legion of Boom out there in Seattle. But Ronnie Lott, I had to go with him. I mean, guy was just tough as nails, and he's probably the best. Arguably, might be the best safety of all time. Honestly, I know he's up there. Had a finger amputated so he could play in the game. Decent numbers. He was feared by many officers. I had to go right around this one.
Okay. Well, one, I got to argue with you with the greatest safety of all time because I'm either going to say Ed Reed or Dick Nitrain. And no, I'm not saying Troy.
No.
But
Cherry is a good choice, by the way. That's a good choice too.
Or the local guy from your alma mater, Ken Houston. But there's no way I'm picking Earl Thomas where he wasn't the best safety on the Seahawks. That was Cam Chancellor. I'm a hitter. I love to knock somebody's city. Ronnie Lott was killing people. He destroyed people. My God, his San Fran days and his Oakland days, he got a lot of dumb penalties. He took out a lot of players. To me, he was the equivalent of LT. He was the equivalent of LT as far as the backfield position. When you got that ball and you seen Ronnie Lott, if you was bold enough to go against him, you probably didn't win. Earl Thomas was a great safety, not to knock him, especially in this modern day generation, even with the stupid stuff he did recently. But in an age where you've had great safeties such as Ed Reed, such as Troy in this generation, he wasn't better than them. again, I'm the first one to tell you, he wasn't better. In my opinion, he wasn't better than Cam Chancellor, and that was his teammate. For that reason alone, I'm sticking with Ronnie Lott.
You know what? I know we're not supposed to do this, but this is unanimous, and we're moving on.
Yeah.
This is unanimous, and we're moving on.
So,
no way.
So maybe Cam Chancellor might have been a better choice than
Uh-huh.
Would Cam Chancellor have been a better choice than Earl Thomas, you think? Or
You would have a better case for Cam Chancellor, bro. I'll be honest with you. The only thing that killed Cam Chancellor is his knees got shot, and he ended up getting concussion because he was hitting too hard. Cam Chancellor was a modern day Ronnie Lott, except for cutting off the finger thing.
Yeah.
Earl,
They don't make men
I don't
like
know
that
about
no more.
bro.
They don't make men like that cut off the finger and want to keep
Yeah,
playing
because
football.
I'll be honest with you, I got Aaron Berry better than Earl Thomas. I'm going to keep it 100. I got Matthew better than Earl Thomas. Earl's great, but there's a lot of safeties better than him.
Yeah.
Ronnie was just defiant.
Yeah, there was no question who the best defensive player on the field was when Ronnie Lott was on the field. And that's saying a lot because defense was everything back then. Our final matchup of the evening will be Russell Wilson versus Steve Young. J-Dub, who you got?
So, the reason why I've made these two is because they are comparison very close. They are both four-year quarterbacks from the university. Steve Young, BYU. Russ, of course, NC State, then Wisconsin for a year. The reason why is because they're both mobile but not running quarterbacks, even though people want to say Steve Young was a running quarterback. Let's be honest, there's not a lot of Anglo-Saxon running quarterbacks. They are mobile, but they're not running. Both Super Bowl winners, both had monkeys on their back in the sense. Russ came in having to deal with the fact that Matt Hasselbeck had took them to Super Bowls, even though he lost against the Steelers at that. But had that monkey on his back of he being the next guy in Seattle. Steve Young had the ultimate pressure of being taken away from Joe Montana after he had failed in Tampa Bay. But if you really want me to go there, I'm going Russ because Steve Young had one huge advantage. He had the greatest wide receiver of all time catching balls from him in his prime. Russ did not have that. Russ still to this day doesn't have a great wide receiver. He had good. Baldwin was good. Metcalf could be good, but he ain't had no top 10 receivers. So that's why I'm going Russ.
So, yeah, sure you got.
Yeah, I had to go with Justin on this one. I had to go Russell Wilson on this one. Like you mentioned, both quarterbacks are very mobile, but Russell Wilson, just the way he just manages the game and just the leader that he is. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say. I don't know if he saw this coming when he got drafted. Maybe he got put in the perfect situation going to Seattle, but being a third round pick and being as successful as he was, I think is just amazing on his part. I had to go with Russell Wilson on this one.
I love Russell Wilson, but I think both of you are drunk. What award has Russell Wilson won?
Super Bowl MVP.
I got Super Bowl champ. I don't show MVP.
No, in fact, take that back. The MVP was Beast Mode.
Yeah.
So,
So what award has Russell Wilson won?
He hasn't won any award. But also, what receiver did Russell Wilson have?
Steve Young is a 2-time MVP in the National Football League. He's a 3-time All-Pro. He's the AP Offensive Player of the Year. Yes, he had weapons, but come on. Like, this dude is in the Hall of Fame not because he inherited a great team. It's because he played great. After he took the helms of that team, he sent Joe Montana to Kansas City, Missouri to play for the Kansas City Chiefs. That wasn't an easy decision. Joe was healthy again, and they sent him packing because of what they had in Steve Young. Steve Young took Joe Montana's job. The hell with what, Matt Hasselbeck? Really? He took Joe Montana's job. He's a 3-time All-Pro, 3-time Super Bowl champion. I'm confused. What?
Wait, rewind. You said 3-time Super Bowl champion?
3-time now. I didn't say he started all 3
How many
times.
times did he start?
I didn't say he started all 3 times, but he's got
Okay,
3
I'm
Super
about to
Bowl
say, let's go
rings.
back real quick.
He's got 3 rings. I never said he started all 3 times.
Hey, Jason Garrett got 3 rings too.
Listen, you won't be selling me that. Hell no. But Steve Young, I'm sorry. I didn't care for the guy. But he's a Hall of Famer for a reason. And I love everything Russell Wilson does, and I'll go back to that same throw that I keep talking about, still the most remarkable throw I've ever seen in my life. But
the locket throw.
But Steve Young, he was absolutely a field general at all times after he left Tampa Bay.
I have one question. Thank you for saying the Tampa Bay comment. But was it Steve Young more okay when they got rid of Joe and he ended up in Kansas City? They have Steve Young on deck. Do you think it was more the system that helped Steve Young because he did have 6 spelling years in Tampa Bay that he didn't do jack shit? But Russ came in day one, took Matt Flynn, because Hasselbeck was gone, took Matt Flynn, who had just signed a huge contract from Green Bay to the Seahawks, took his spot. And remember, he went to the Super Bowl twice in his first 2 years, first 2 out of 3 years.
And that's when he had the Legion of Boom, right?
Hey, he had the Legion of Boom.
Hold on. So for Steve Young's offensive talent that he had on his team, Russ had it on defense.
Well, I got a disclaimer. Steve Young had a hell of a defense with Ken Norton, Charles Haley, Hall of Fame.
Those guys were aging when Steve Young took over.
Not Charles Haley. Charles Haley was still top 10 DN at that point. Charles Haley didn't start aging until after that run, but he was still top 10. But I mean Steve Young, but it's still Russ. I think Russ did more with less.
No, I think you racist, bro.
You keep throwing the racist comment on me, but it ain't got nothing to do with color. I mean, I'm just going there with that. That's the second time you do that. You know, we have fans here that's like, Jay's racist. You gotta watch that, bro.
He ain't racist. He ain't racist. You can't do what we do and be racist. Jeez. No, anyway,
I'm sure.
Exactly. Anyway, so y'all made Russell Wilson the winner here. I think the Hall of Famer wins. I guess I'm the old school one on the show because I seem to be taking all the Hall of Famers.
No,
yeah.
It was a mix between.
No.
Because usually you're the young one that likes all the younger guys. Like,
I was at the beginning of this, like I was looking at y'all like, come on now, but that's fine, you know. Anyway, we'll be back on Saturday. We'll have some NBA versus more NBA news as the season is hopefully gearing towards a return. Until then, I'm Casey Reginald Jr.
It's your man J-Dub, Justin Waters in the building.
This is Jay Swish, Joel Swisher signing off.
This is UnderDawg Sportz.